So just thought I'd address this last question, and it's the excellent sort of question, requiring you to compare and contrast. In this case, it's comparing and contrasting the impact on the profits of New Zealand producers after either one, an increase in supply in New Zealand, or two, an increase in demand in Australia. Well, what I've done then is to start to illustrate the impact of that. You can see that originally at the original world price, New Zealand producers were receiving in revenue the world price multiplied by this Q1. So that was their revenue at that point. Now, after the supply increased in New Zealand for whatever reason, what do you notice? Well, you notice that the surplus now in New Zealand is increased, and it's now larger, if you like, than the shortage in Australia. So most of you, I think, will be able to identify that what that will do because there's a greater surplus in New Zealand, what are New Zealand cheese producers going to do? They're going to have to drop their price. So obviously, when New Zealand cheese producers drop their prices, that's going to impact the world price, and ultimately where that process will stop, or where the price dropping will stop, will be where the market is back into a form of equilibrium below the current world price. So that's going to be PO. So ultimately, what will happen is that a new quantity will be established, and let's call that, in this case, Q2, at a lower price. So the new revenue will equal P0 times Q2 in this case. Okay. Now, we saw in the Australian market the opposite thing happening, didn't we? We said as a result of this increase in demand, there's going to be a new world price established up here. So we call that P1. Originally, New Zealand producers were earning the same as they were above. So revenue was equal to PW times Q1, just there. But the new revenue was going to be equal to Q2, new revenue is going to be equal to P1 times Q2. Now you'll notice the only difference here, we'll do that in red, difference is the price that they receive. So in that situation and in that situation, you notice that they receive a different price. Now let's make this assumption, which I think is pretty obvious from the graph. P1 is greater than P0, therefore the situation 2, profits will increase more after an increase in demand in the Australian market. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Cheers.